Hi, I'm Robin Gutman. I'm a licensed mental health clinician. So I work in Muncie, and the primary focus of my practice is based on relationships, and a lot of relationships, the idea of connection comes up in relationships. So today I wanted to talk about connecting with yourself and with others. So thanks for being here, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I think connection is and how I think that we can incorporate more of it in a really helpful and healthy way in our lives. So I do work on a daily basis with all kinds of different connections. People come in, and very often the idea of a relationship is at the crux of what comes up, what's bothering them. Whether it's with their parent or with their child, whether it's couples. I work with individuals and couples, but sometimes an individual will come in and want to talk about what's going on in their relationship. So just all kinds of family dynamics. And a really big piece of connection is the relationship that a person has with themselves. And the relationship that a person has with themselves is so central to connection. And I also want to say that very often that relationship that you have with yourself could be really heavily impacted by the relationship that you might have with your parent. With one parent, with both parents, but the way a person is raised could have a really large impact on the way they connect with people throughout their life. So we want to know how to navigate that in a really helpful and healthy way, right? Particularly if there is repair involved. So I want to share with you, I put on my stories a little question box, and I said, when you see this word, just write the first word that comes to your mind. And that word was connection. So if you could just take a minute, okay, just think, when I say connection, what's the first thing that comes into your mind? If you want, you could share it in the comments. And I'll read it out. And in the meantime, I'm going to share with you things that people wrote on my stories. The initial thought or word that somebody has when it comes to connection, some of these words are authenticity, human need, love, family, effort, God, husband, trust, and is everything for me. So obviously the idea of connection is super strong and central. So let's talk about connection. Let's talk about it a little bit more. Two really important pieces that I think contribute to the idea of connection are self-awareness and self-confidence. Okay, not the same thing. Self-awareness is things you know about yourself, right? The awareness you have about yourself. Love, yes. Connection and love. Okay, so awareness, self-awareness. You want to know, when you have self-awareness, there's two things that have to do with connection that are like amazingly insightful. Number one, you know what kind of connection you want, right? Connection is not always so simple. Like, how do you want to connect to somebody, right? All these words, love, trust, family, effort, how do they play out in a relationship? So you want to know what kind of connection you want. And when you have self-awareness, you know that you can set boundaries that actually lead to healthier interactions. So I think that's really cool. The idea of self-awareness, you know what kind of connection you want, you know what kind of boundaries you need to get there. Now, the benefit of having self-confidence in a relationship is not only do you know what you want, you actually also know what you deserve. You could make sure that you're not just accepting anything. You know what you deserve in a relationship. You have the confidence to believe that you actually deserve what you want. So there's a difference between knowing what you want and then knowing that you deserve what you want. And when you have self-confidence, you can really trust in yourself. You know that you deserve it, so therefore you're not second-guessing yourself, you're not questioning the person. So there's that element of trusting in yourself, trusting in the other person. And again, trust is pretty central to connection. So I thought that's, maybe a helpful thought to keep in mind, the idea of self-awareness and self-confidence and how those two pieces contribute to connection in a relationship. Now, I want to add something about self-awareness, and that is that self-awareness doesn't mean it's not just the idea of, oh, I know so much about myself. Like I'm really a self-aware person. That's great. If you're a self-aware person, that's great. The element that people sometimes forget is self-awareness includes noticing yourself as you're interacting with other people, noticing yourself in different scenarios, and realizing how you're reacting in those scenarios, and recognizing, understanding what is needed in a relationship. So there's the self-awareness piece of yourself, and there's the self-awareness piece of how that plays in, what is needed in this interaction. It's like a deeper level of self-awareness. So I want to point that out because it's also an important piece of true, authentic connection. When you're in a relationship, right? When you're connecting with somebody, it's not all about you. It's a two-way street, right? There's another person involved. So you want to take their side into account too. And then there's another idea I wanted to share, and that is the idea of knowing yourself, connecting to yourself, because that's a really central one. I will say it comes up in sessions a lot. I mean, when you're on that path of like exploring yourself and really connecting to yourself and, working hard to understand yourself, you need to understand, to connect to yourself, you need to understand your emotions. You need to know what you're feeling. You need to know how to name your feelings. Your emotions are a central part of yourself. So to connect to yourself, you want to be able to recognize your emotions, because you're going to use that to connect to other people too. When you want to connect to people, I think vulnerability is key. To be able to share that, share your emotions, share the vulnerability, right? Sharing is connecting. So recognizing your emotions leads to being able to share them, leading to vulnerability, leading to stronger connection. So it's like a positive chain. And so I want you to just consider that if you're looking to connect to people on a deeper level. I'm just going to summarize, the ideas that I shared, and I'm going to wrap up in a moment. The idea of self-awareness, the idea of self-confidence and how those things play into a relationship, the idea of recognizing yourself, your own emotions, the idea of importance, having the vulnerability, being able to share that. These are all important components of connection. So if you want the best connection, you're going to want to practice all of these things. I think there's another interesting question I'm not going to really go into right now, but I was thinking about it a little bit, the idea of, can there be connection without communication? And I think there's a lot to be said on that. I think there can be connection without verbal communication. Maybe there's other kinds of communication, but real deep connection, I think you need to have really helpful and healthy communication. Remember, not all communication is helpful or healthy. But I'm gonna put a pause on that one for now. We'll focus on more of the actual connection part. So with that, I'm gonna wrap up. When we feel safe, we could connect, and we can connect to feel safe. So there's a lot of beauty in connection. And if you have any questions about connection, you can please post them down here. I'm just gonna read out one of the questions. If one has never had healthy connection due to CPTSD and abuse, is there any way of knowing intuitively what kind of connection is healthy? Yes, I love this question. I think this question relates to the idea of self, that intuitive part deep within. I definitely think that you could get there, but you might need to work through some protective layers first to get there. But I think everyone has that within themselves. So yes, I do believe that there is a way of connecting to yourself. But obviously if somebody has been through like trauma, it won't be as easy for them to access it. That's pretty much a lot of the work that I see, like in my practice. That's what I see a lot of. People are just like trying to get back to their core self. People are trying to get to that place where they have that intuition, they have that self-trust. And I'm going to connect that, I guess, to the idea of self-awareness and self-confidence. It's part of that self. So I hope that answers your question. If anyone has any other comments or questions, feel free to reach out to me at RobinGutman_LPC. I'll be happy to hear from you. As always, a pleasure to be here on OKclarity, and wishing you a wonderful evening. All the best. Bye.